This is the Criterion Creeps podcast, and tonight we're talking about La Commare Secca from 1962, directed by Bernardo Bertolucci. And RJ, we're joined by another podcast who have made the same poor decision of doing a podcast, of going through the Criterion Collection in spine order, and we've converged at long last. This is like just like two ships passing in the night, never to see one another ever again.
Crossing streams.
Yeah. That's right, crossing the streams. Bad things usually happen, I've heard. And we're joined by Kristen Lee from Criterion Quest.
Hey everybody, it's lovely to be here.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming on. I've long been told from our listeners that we are the only Criterion podcast, and some have even suggested the only podcast at all. So I didn't even know that there was other people who did such a thing.
Oh yeah, so we've been doing the hard work, and I don't want to say that you guys stole our idea, but
I mean, we're from Canada, so it's a little different. We have different rules up here. There's no stealing. It's all about sharing.
Exactly. That's what I know about Canadians. They're overly nice. Yeah. It would never be something.
And don't forget derivative.
Yes. And derivative. Yeah, exactly.
And the letterbox synopsis for this film: Roman police detectives interrogate a series of potential perpetrators in their struggle to determine whom to arrest for the brutal murder of a beautiful prostitute whose body is discovered in a park on the day of a torrential rainstorm. One by one, the prime suspects, girl-crazy teenager Nino, pickpocket Canchia, a soldier on leave, a tourist, and a pimp recount the events of the day to the police, each insisting he is innocent.
Yeah.
All right.
That's the movie.
That's the movie.
Yeah. They sure got that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, so just kind of rolling into it, had you guys obviously seen this one before or had any knowledge of it, or?
None at all. I didn't even know until, like a week or so ago that this was, a Bernardo Bertolucci movie, and nor did I know that it was his first movie. So that kind of took me back. And it's like kind of like almost when I see the name Bertolucci, it's kind of a blast from the past, because I remember like back in the 90s, he was one of the big names that everybody knew. And I feel like his name and career have really fallen by the wayside. He died 2.5 years ago, I believe. But that shouldn't really harm one's film credit. But it seems like the reputation of him and his movies, like Last Tango in Paris, I've never actually seen before. I feel like more people that I know of talk about The Conformist than anything else. And I have seen Last Emperor, and that movie, I don't know if has anyone else seen Last Emperor?
Yep.
Like the first half of that movie is like unreal. Like I can't believe, like when I was watching it, I was like, this is incredible. Like it doesn't look like anything. It's kind of like that high watermark of world cinema where it's just like this gorgeous, like they're inside that castle, the whatever it is, the Forbidden Temple, and you're just seeing it, the way it's shot. It's kind of like coming from like a foreigner's perspective, the way it's kind of presented, like it's very otherworldly, but like it is like still pretty stunning. When I watched it, I did not know what to expect, because I remember like years ago renting movies on video, and then you would see these like weird like letterboxed trailers for it, and it was like kind of on blurry VHS tapes, and you're like, well, that looks kind of cool, but what is this movie about? Like I'd never idea. And you're like, Last Emperor. It's like, is this a fantasy movie? And I never knew. So that's like that movie, for whatever reason, that's my impression of Bertolucci, and this Last Tango in Paris and Boat Butter and weird things like that, and Marlon Brando. But like I know this movie by reputation, and I should see it someday, but I just never have. What about you guys?
Controversial take. I think Last Tango in Paris is really overrated.
Okay.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Not the biggest fan of that one. But yeah, Last Emperor and The Conformist, love both of those flicks. I remember in the 90s, Stealing Beauty coming out, and that kind of being, it's like, oh shit, he's back and he's doing, something artistic and interesting again. And that movie's fine. But then Dreamers, I think, with Michael Pitt and Eva Green and things, that I watched that as well. And to me, that's also a kind of like Last Tango in Paris. Like,
okay. I think I have like a DVD of that from Blockbuster that I bought previously viewed, and I've never watched it because I read it, and I go, I don't really want to watch this.
It's fine. Like, yeah.
That's like such poor praise.
It's fine.
Yeah.
Well, once again, welcome to the Criterion Creeps podcast. Did you guys like that movie? It's fine.
That's why I love watching so many of these foreign films, because at the end, like when it comes up, and I think it's like some of the French ones that come up, instead of saying fin, it's fine. And if it's fine, yeah. There we go. Fine.
I like that.
If only the movie started with that, you know?
Yeah, fine.
It's fine.
What about you, Lee? How familiar are you with Bertolucci?
The only one the only one I saw was Last Emperor, and that was super long ago. That's probably over a decade ago. I remember it being pretty spectacular shot, but I don't really remember much else. So yeah, okay. A lot of the films I'm coming through the collection, I'm like, I don't know this director, but cool.
Yeah. So just so you know, when I went into this, I thought this was Roberto Benigni from Life is Beautiful.
Oh.
And when I watched this, I said, this is not Roberto Benigni. So don't feel bad.
Man.
Yeah. So don't worry about coming into these things new, because when I watched this, I was like, where the fuck is that little guy? I watched the whole movie waiting for him, and I was like, where's Roberto Benigni? And or Benigni, and he never came. And then I looked it up, and I was like, Bertolucci.
Oh.
Huh? They're like, who the hell is this guy? And then I figured it out afterwards, but it did take me a little bit.
Bertolucci's a weird one, because like Last Emperor like won Best Picture and Best Director and things at the Academy Awards, like huge film. But for me, like the high watermark of his career is co-writing Once Upon a Time in the West with Sergio Leone.
And don't forget Dario Argento is in there too.
That's right, yeah. Mm-hmm. That's the thing, when that, like, who wrote that movie comes up, you're like, okay, this is gonna be great. So.
Yeah, it's quite the confluence of like the big shots of Italy. They happen to be, they worked on this Western starring Charles Bronson.
Yeah.
Catfish himself.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, I should have brought this up in the preamble. Sorry, Jarrett, for cutting you off. Lee, were you here when did you guys watch That Obscure Object of Desire together, or was that before your time?
Before my time.
Okay. So hey, Chris.
Yep.
When did you figure out it was two actresses? Was it after the movie when you saw other people, or when you were watching the movie did you realize that there was two different actresses in there?
Oh God, I can't even. I still probably have only just now figured out it's two different actresses. Like, okay. Dang now.
Okay, I'm happy you say that, because people make fun of me for not realizing that. I didn't realize it until we recorded the episode, and Jarrett said, "Hey, when did you realize there was two actresses?" I said, "Just now." When you told me.
It's almost like the inverse of Kagamusha the other week, where it was like it's actually the same actor.
Same actor, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Sorry, you go ahead now, Jerry. You're allowed.
So we got our Bertolucci experience. So none of us exactly are, I guess, super fans, but that's okay. We're gonna check out this movie. So the title translates to The Skinny Gossip, but the English title for this movie was The Grim Reaper.
How is that the same thing at all? I'd be like, this is my kid, Chris, but he also goes by Ham Sandwich. It'd be like, what? Right, that's not the same thing. You call Hammy, whatever.
Yeah.
Weird. Yeah, the Commare Secca, it like comes up as that final quote at the end of the movie there. Yeah, so it's like the literal translation, but I guess it falls into that thing of back in the day. It's like, well, the actual literal translation doesn't work, so we're going to throw it in as the Grim Reaper. But then also, the Grim Reaper kind of doesn't also work.
Yeah.
Not really.
No.
Yeah, there's no hooded guy walking around with a scythe at all. It's bullshit.
No.
It's like the person who wrote the name for it just looked at the cover and didn't watch the film.
Yeah. It's like the old Roger Corman films where they're just like, I don't know, fucking call it whatever, it's fine. Yeah.
Hey, if you're interested in Roger Corman films, I won't bog down the review now, but I'll tell you about something later, okay? You'll like it.
I'm intrigued.
Yeah.
So this movie opens up with these like fairly scenic, poetic shots of an Italian overpass, and drifts down. We follow newspapers that are torn like from a truck that passes by, and they float through the grass, and it settles upon a dead woman in a grassy ditch. This immediately in my mind recalled the movie Vagabond from ages ago, the Agnes Varda movie. And I kind of like started thinking about it, like, this is an image that I guess pops up quite a bit in different movies. I guess I always think about the movie, even like Henry, Portrait of a Serial Killer, a movie that I don't know if you two are familiar with, but
very.
Okay, yeah, a grim piece of work, that movie, but awesome. So I guess like there's a moment there where they're comparing like the way this woman's being dumped into this ditch along with these newspaper garbage scraps. That's about as insightful as I'm going to get, by the way. Just warning. I'm not. That's it. That's the end of it. We also get introduced sort of like what becomes like this motif of this classical like stringy musical score that kind of like permeates whenever we do these flashbacks that are punctuated by the sound of a storm kicking in, of like whatever it is, thunder, and we get these flashbacks to the dead woman who is a sex worker. And the whole movie itself is a faceless interrogator from the police who is interviewing 5 men about what they were doing in this park where this woman was last seen the night before. Does that sound accurate to what we're watching? Good, excellent.
I didn't really watch the movie, so if you say so.
Well, this is good. This is good for you then.
Yeah. Okay.
Just quickly, had you read that synopsis and knowing that that's what the film is about before you sat to watch it?
I did, yes. I have found that when doing this, it's a good idea sometimes to get a baseline of what you're going to watch. It's especially when you have to talk about it later, because going in blind completely sometimes, I don't know, it might not work out great for you.
We were saying that I'm really glad you read that to me, Chris. So we read the synopsis as well. Because at what point did I realize what was going on? Like an interrogation room, the police. I mean, it's just a dude in a chair with a light on him. Someone's asking him questions. I'm like,
now all of a sudden he's trying to steal radios from James Caan in a turtleneck.
Oh yeah, that yes, the James Caan man.
Oh wait, go ahead.
We have this thing where when we're watching the old movies, we're like, oh my God, it's an olden day, this person. We like try and pick actors for everyone. What did you say for the soldier?
Oh yeah, so we have James Caan in a turtleneck. And then we also have the soldier later on in the film is if Dave Franco fucked Kurt Russell from Stargate.
That's an interesting take, because I had him pegged as insatiable Italian Christian Slater. That's who I thought the soldier looked like the most, and I have a lot to say about that guy. I like this thing you do, because I do that quite often as well, but
pretty well all the time.
Pretty well all the time. But while you guys are on it, I went in completely blind. I didn't read anything about this movie. I've never seen it before, and for the first 20 minutes, I was like, what the fuck is going on? I was so confused. I was like, what is happening in this movie? And then I did figure it out eventually, but for like 20 minutes, I was really like, what is going on, man? I was like, is this fucking Pasolini getting me again? He just keeps getting me.
Yeah.
But
at this point we get the over that scroll of like after the introduction of this dead woman in the ditch, we get the credits of the movie, and we get the story credit going to Criterion alum Pier Paolo Pasolini, who Bertolucci was kind of like a friend of, being mentored by previously. The Pasolini movie Akatani, however that would be pronounced, he worked on that, and then this kind of got handed to him as his first feature film at the age of 21, which is something. He's part of that pedigree of the Orson Welles, who were like making movies like these full-on productions at like 2021 back in this era.
Yeah, looking into it a bit, it seemed like Bertolucci's father was kind of friendly with Pasolini, and that's how he kind of got his in, and then got the job being his assistant on the Pasolini film, and then I think it was Pasolini had written this story, but then was like, you write it, you go and do it. I'll help out how I can, and
right.
yeah. And then I think that also it kind of impacted it. Like when it first came out, everyone was just like, "Oh, this is just a Pasolini film," and Bertolucci's like, "No, God damn it, my style."
My style, which like, I don't know, like this really did remind me a lot of Mama Roma from like a few months ago, because it's just like kind of like this like that neo-Italian period of like, I don't know, all the tropes are kind of here. You get post World War II Italy, bombed out buildings, everybody's unemployed in Italy from like the 40s, 50s, 60s on. Umberto D, that Il Posto, the fiancés, everyone's unemployed in this time, and so you get like, or they're criminals. You get scummy pimps like in Mama Roma, which would be kind of like the world of like Pasolini that he was invested in, as far as his interest in storytelling. Then you also get dog napping. I'm not sure how that fits into Pasolini movies, but then we get Italian street sex pests, which feels redundant. If you've watched enough of these Italian movies, it seems like it's a terrifying thing to be a woman there. And
just a side note, so happy that you guys also use the term sex pest. It's such a phrase.
Well, and while we're on sex pests, I get a lot of heat. I get a lot of shit for this, but have you guys found that people think I hate Italians, and I don't. I don't. But
you love The Sopranos.
I love The Sopranos. And I was raised Catholic. I get it. I'm on board. Criterion that is from Italians. It's all about insatiable gang raping men and prostitutes. And so, like, is that me, or is that what every single Italian movie is? It's just insatiable men that are like hunting women down, and then like that's it, right? And then whores, which is the word that they use in this movie, right? He's like, it was a whore, to jump ahead, but
it's fine. Yeah,
I don't know.
It's a whore.
You've probably seen more Italian.
I get it. Like there's a giant bulk of that, but then I think it's weird, especially coming out of the post-war films. It's like, all right, we need to try and establish an identity for ourselves as Italian cinema. Why go for that angle? It's kind of odd. I'm with you. You do get the odd ones there, where it's like, oh, life is futile and nothingness, and I'm gonna kill myself and my dog. But yeah.
Okay, I'm glad we're similar pages.
Yeah, it's like they need at least a decade to kind of figure themselves out in their identity. But like sticking with the Mama Roma thing, like the vibes I got off of that, like connecting these two was like, I think it's like the fourth, like jumping way ahead, to like the two kids who are trying to get the money to make the dinner for their would-be girlfriends. The scene of them playing soccer in the field, I'm like, this just looks like this is a scene taken out of Mama Roma. Like when they're running from the cops, and it's like lots of weird hilly dirt fields where people are playing soccer on the outskirts of town.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, because in Mama Roma, actually, it's 1962 as well. So these movies, like, they're contemporary. Yeah.
Well, isn't that why, like, Pasolini had, like, written this story and was interested in it, but then was like, well, I'm going to go off and make Mama Roma. Here's the story I've got. You young upstart, you can make this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and one thing I noticed too is what I thought more than anything is like a lot of people think like Fellini is the big inspiration for dudes like Alfonso Cuarón, but like watching this movie, I was like, this seems more like things that would inspire Alfonso Cuarón than like Fellini stuff. Even like I know it's all in the same, like under the same umbrella, but I don't know. That was one thing I picked out of it.
Yeah, Cuarón always gets kind of pegged, I think, as like this big operatic, grandiose guy. But if you look at a lot of his films, they're down and dirty. Like I rewatched Y Tu Mamá También recently, and that's a like kind of weird little dirty indie film. Like, you know, scrappy is probably a better word for it.
Yeah, I agree with you. That's what the vibe I was getting from it. But I've also been told my opinion is wrong many times. So,
Yeah.
Because you mentioned Coron, I don't know if any of you are familiar with his short film "I Am Autism."
No.
Ooh, yeah.
it's about his son, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It is.
Is it not?
It is. As the kids like to say, problematic.
Okie dokie.
So
I do think it's about his son though. Like if that's any any means anything to anyone, I think that's about him and like raising his son who is autistic. But
so it's not like going and making a movie.
Oh.
No, it's a 4-minute.
I haven't
short.
seen it, so
yeah, it's for some organization called Autism Speaks, and it portrays half of it portrays autism as a form of demonic possession, and yeah, so.
Yikes.
Process that for a second.
Wow.
Okay.
Anywho, so we get to the interrogations of this film, this movie that we're talking about. Interrogation 1 is about this young guy, the poster child of like Italian youths who are trying to find jobs where there are no jobs in a like collapsed economy where 10,000 lira is like $5. So you have to like struggle to find work. You have to know the right people. You have to get 2 priests to make reference letters for you to get a job. But that's all bullshit. He's telling the cops something, and then we're getting to see the detached reality of what he was doing, which is a curious thing because this movie like gets framed often as like Rashomon-esque. And which is like, it's kind of curious, like how often, because like even like RJ and I, we've been talking recently about Yojimboing as like kind of like as a plot trope that comes up in some of these movies. But this is the Rashomoning, which I guess is apparently Bertolucci says he never even saw Rashomon before he made this. I don't know what the Pasolini story would have resembled exactly, like if it would have had the same idea, because so maybe Pasolini saw Rashomon and it's not Bertolucci at all.
I read the essay that comes in the Criterion, like along with the Criterion edition, and like I forget who wrote it, but he like throws kind of a little bit of shade or like some stank at him because he's like, like Bertolucci, a self-professed like cinema enthusiast, claims he never saw Rashomon, but come on, like you at least needed to know about Rashomon, like. Yeah, I thought that was...
I want to take a step back. Did you say throw some stank on it? Is that did I hear that right?
You did,
okay. Yeah. No, that's all I need. I just wanted confirmation on that. Yeah, I approve.
So the young man, he's actually a forest bandit, and him and 2 pals, they like kind of like crawl around in the forest, preying on unsuspecting young lovers, who they then rob while they're in each other's throes and embraces. I think they rob one guy or one woman's purse, and they find their what they find in their loot is 2 pears. The one character says it should have been at least spaghetti, the bitch. So,
good screenshot.
This is like the thing is RJ and I a lot of the time we're watching these movies in terms of screen capability. It's like, oh, that's a good screen cap. That's a good because that's one of the great things about the Criterion channel and subtitles, and even movies that are in English we watch with subtitles because you just never know what great contrast you'll get. And just
there's meme potential.
I found that whole scene very confusing. I feel like it's his first film. He's going to shoot the fucking shit out of it. And there was a moment where the character's walking down the street and he continues to talk, but the 2 priests or thugs, whatever, have come out of frame. And then he's still talking and they're responding, but then it cuts weird, and then he flips the camera upside down under this log and into this cave, and
the geography's all fucked in that sequence at the park.
It calms down as the film goes on. It becomes a little bit more structured, a lot easier to follow. But yeah. But
do you reckon that's because Bertolucci's trying to establish like unreliable narrators? I guess so. Like our vision's all kind of fucked and squiffy, and
That's what I question watching it. I'm like, are we you know when someone tells you a story that's a lie and the story doesn't quite connect? Like it's like, oh, well, what a minute, what about this, what about that? And is it a conscious choice, or is he just like, I'm a first-time film director, look at me go, woo?
Yeah, I'm here without a tripod.
Yeah. Oh my god, yeah.
I think it's a mix where it's like a art house dream logic, where it's like the dream logic stuff where it's like things are happening, which like I think it's actually done really well in this, but then there's the other mix side of it where it is like a little showy at some points. But I did think that first part was super confusing too. And I was almost like, is this like a hyper Catholic movie? Because it was like a dude all in white and a dude all in black, and they were on both sides. And I was like, is this like an angel and devil? But I think I'm looking a little too much into that, but that might, Italians, there's there could be something to it.
Yeah. But that's the thing, like that whole sequence in the park with the stealing of the purses and things, and when it slowly progresses and we have like a sequence that we eventually get to see over and over again, not the woman getting ready with the platform, but the part where it's each person like walking through that area of the park at night, and we're kind of establishing all of our players that we're going to see throughout the rest of the film. All of a sudden, the film kind of shifts from this chaotic handheld like scrappiness to a really assured. And it's the kid's narrating it as he's like being interrogated and telling the police, and it's beautifully framed where it's like, oh, I saw a woman, and then she instantly comes into frame, and then there were two other guys, and it's like, okay, so you've got this style, like it's there, and is it that just you were slowly building towards that?
And I love the first guy that we follow. So it's I saw the woman, I saw the guys, and then the police guy says, oh, did you see the soldier? And as he's asking that, the soldier comes into frame, but his head's turned, looking at the guys. He goes, no, I didn't see a soldier. And it's like, it's so clever, like amazing.
Yeah. It is, for sure.
So our young man, he goes and robs James Caan, who he attempts to steal the radio. And he gets called out on his shit, and he's like, "Oh, I didn't even see you guys there. I just thought someone left the radio. Don't go to the police." And then he's seeing that he's pleading his case, and it's falling on deaf ears from James Caan. And then he starts turning to his girlfriend, and he's like, "Well, because she's going to be sympathetic. She's going to be like, oh, let this guy, poor kid, go." She's like, "Kill this guy. He interrupted our lovemaking."
I also thought that was a little strange. I was like, this lady's fucking hardcore, man.
She wants to see blood.
Like, hey, don't be making out in public, I guess. If you don't want it to be interrupted, go like find somewhere you can lock the door or something. I don't know.
I will say as well, like the thing was also kind of off-putting for us in that whole first section where they are in that park and like that kind of outside kind of forest area, that looks so much like Australia.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Countries. We're like, is this shot in Australia?
Like, what the fuck is going on? It was really off-putting and confusing for us.
Yeah, I didn't get any of that.
Yeah.
That woman, though, I reckon she was my favorite of the whole film. She was batshit.
Yeah.
The lovemaking woman?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that lady's pretty wild.
Oh, she's awesome.
And then our young man, he gets beat up by some skinhead forest bandits, I think is, and then he walks shabbily, sadly defeated back, continuing to tell the tale to the cops that, that happened, but I got the job and it's all going to work out great.
The job interview went great with the pretty.
Yeah. And you're like, okay. And then, so he's very much on the peripheral of the action of what they're investigating, because he kind of passes through the park and there's like, yeah, the woman that who's been killed, I never even got very close to her. She was way over there because everybody was way far away from her, it seems. And she's like, which I actually really liked how that was a consistent thing, that she was like so far removed from it and like just on the periphery, you can't really see her. And then I think the most disjointing part at this point though was when you get the thunderstorm effect and then it cuts to her getting ready in the morning, because you have no idea who this woman is, because when we first see her dead at the beginning of the movie, she's face down and completely anonymous, and so you have to start like deducing that, okay, well, I think this is where they're going. But like, I think in watching it now, it becomes more obvious that that's what's happening. But I'm not sure if it's necessarily effective, because apparently the way it was originally planned for in the movie was that was all going to be one continuous sequence. But I guess a producer told him, if you leave this in the movie the way that it is, people will walk out of the theater.
Yeah, it was like, you're going to turn off your audience if you just every 20 minutes play the same one shot over and over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
People will be like, fuck off. Like, I'm out of this now. I don't care. I've seen this.
I would have left.
Even say when we were watching, I was like, no wonder she gets killed. She takes so fucking long to get dressed. Hurry up. That's another thing in the film. What were we saying, Jesse, from, what was that thing that you said? Oh, you like, we get that people are walking.
Oh,
we don't need to
yeah.
have a 5-minute scene of them walking.
It's the thing, like, I have a thing periodically with movies where it's like, if they're trying to pad stuff with like, well, here's a 5-minute sequence of him walking to the destination, it's like, can't we just know that he walked there?
I know what you mean. That's a good point. Yeah. It's like, I get it. People have to, it takes time to get from one place to another. Does anything happen?
No.
Yeah, I think I pointed that out. It was just, made that comment. It was, I think, later when we've got our actual killer, who we called the referee, because of, just there's like the long shot as his clogs as he's kind of going. We just get there already.
Let's talk. Yeah, we'll talk about those toeless clogs.
So many issues with that.
Wonderful.
So then we get
Stephen
King. We get to interrogation number 2 with the pimp / gigolo / dog napper.
Yeah.
And / mooch, I guess. It's all kind of like thereabouts. And I guess like he seems to be like one of the more charming characters in this movie, I think.
He's friendly to the dog.
Yeah, I like, so when there's animals that show up in Criterion movies, my heart kind of like, oh no, RJ, he's going to be complaining about this real soon because something bad's going to happen to this dog. But we never actually find out what happens to this dog. The dog's around. He gets wet. He's very cute.
He seems to really like that dog. He's like, puts it in the backseat of the convertible. He's like, now you've got a great gentleman as an owner. You're going to have such a good life. It's going to be great. So, yeah.
My heart skipped a beat too.
Yeah, you thought it was just going to get stomped to death because that's what happens in these movies.
Well, I've seen an Argento film. I know how the treatment of animals is from one of the main Italians. So I'm well aware. What were you saying?
So interrogation number 2, we get like kind of his day prior to winding up in the park, where him and his fiance, he gets a snapshot of their life together, living with his future mother-in-law, where she's just like totally aware of his shtick, that he's just like fleecing them. It's costing them, $5 million, which is probably again like $50 in current money. And he's ruining things, and he just is like kind of like not fazed by it, and because he's got other women on the way, he treats people very poorly, and eventually he gets, just like the short and sweet of it is, his fiance confronts him in the middle of the street, pulls a knife out of her purse, nicks him a little bit across the cheek. He takes off, and he's like kind of like having to like hide out, maybe wait for her to cool off. He goes out to the park, parks in the parking lot, goes for a walk, and then when he goes back to the car, there she is waiting and sitting in the car for him to return. He's like, oh, what do I do now? And he just keeps wandering around. So he's just one of these figures, these anonymous figures in the park of the night that this woman, the sex worker, is murdered. That's about sums it up.
Yeah, what I liked about that kind of ending with him arriving back at the park to get to his car is, for everyone else's stories and perspective of it, he just seems like a creeper. Like, why is this guy hanging out in the bushes? What's happening? But then the fact that we've established so early on, and you see this weirdo in the background, you're like, oh, that's kind of cool. Like, I get that. And you can see the car, and it frames everything in, like I said before, like the geography of that scene is wonderful.
Yeah.
How often do you guys hang out at parks, like at nighttime?
Literally last night.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
We were
Yeah.
drinking in the park till 1 a.m.
Wow. Okay, I just threw that out there as a joke, but interesting.
You just
Interesting.
hit on the right day.
Yeah, it's not something
Yeah.
we do often, but we have restrictions at the moment where we had a 30th, but you can't have so many people at your house, so we were in the park. So yeah, that was just good timing.
And plus, it's like 35 degrees here in Melbourne, so it's.
See, where we are, we're not allowed anyone over at houses, but we are allowed to have up to 10 people in a gathering outside, but we have to be wearing masks. And right now it's like, I don't know. What do you think, Jarrett? Minus 100 Celsius? It seems like. It's not that. It's pretty cold though, so it's like ain't no one hanging out outside. It's way too cold. But are we talking about, Jarrett? Parks or something?
Hanging out in the parks and just trying to not be accused of killing a prostitute.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, it's hard not to.
Eventually. Interrogation number 3, we get the Italian street sex pest, aka Italian soldier, who's in town for a good time, and we get this montage that I wonder if it was shot kind of ad hoc and just like, there was the crew in a car and they were just filming him approaching women, like legitimately.
The vibe that we got watching it, it seemed like he's just approaching women on the street, and like I started yelling at the TV, like, "Don't touch women on the street!"
Grabbing their arms.
Yeah, don't do that. What are you doing?
And it's so long.
Yeah,
it's like such a prolonged. It's like 5 minutes. It felt like to me, at least. I was just like, "Holy fuck!"
He's
like, it's going on forever.
At least interesting, because then he goes to hang out in the Colosseum. He pulls out a sandwich out of his trousers. I put that in there for later. And just falls asleep on the bench. Like every other storyline had something, going for it. It was pretty dull.
I think it's just like, especially the way he establishes his story of like, well, I'm a good soldier and I do my duty, and all I did in the day was I went to the movies and then I walked around. Like, it's continuing to establish that like unreliable narrator. Everyone's kind of putting on this facade of I'm a nice person. This is what I actually do, but I'm actually secretly a scumbag.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
I know a guy like that.
A secret scumbag.
Yeah.
Yeah, someone. So I was going to say, like, with this character, I think some of the best shots in the movie are around this guy, because there's a shot when he like gets out of the rain during the rainstorm, and there's like that panning back from the front of the tunnel, and he keeps going back and back, and you're like, what is he turning around and smiling at? That stupid smile of his, and it's just like this, all these women, like sex workers, they're all like they've gotten out of the rain, and it's just this long pullback. I found it to be a striking image. And then later on, when the young teenage party boys, they come across him sleeping on the bench, and they're talking about like how great of a life he has, and like he gets to sleep all the time. But you're like, he doesn't look comfortable at all sleeping on a bench. This is like a product of like when you're in the military, you probably have had to sleep in weird places uncomfortably wherever you can. And it was kind of like this really sad image, I thought. But yeah, it was just one of those things, like the character himself, like there's not much to that narrative, but there was like some great images like that came out of, I don't know, it seemed like Bertolucci had some interest in that character, at least photographing him for whatever reason.
Oh, definitely. It's that whole sequence, it has the least effect on the overall narrative of the film, but it is the most striking for sure. And yeah, that kind of juxtaposing image of like the guy thinking he has this great life, and then the actual ending with him just nodding off on a bench, and you're like, yeah, you kind of, it's almost you start to pity this guy to some degree.
Right.
I thought that insatiable Christian Slater was this is the scariest villain we've encountered in the Criterion Collection so far. Oh. I thought this guy was so unsettling, not just because of how much he was hounding the ladies, but like that scene you were talking about, Jarrett, with like the pullout and the tunnel. I don't know what it is, but like it looks great, but I was like, I am so uncomfortable looking at this dude right now. Like, yeah, he's a scary dude, and I was just like, I don't like this guy. He scares me a lot. And I see what you guys are saying too. You're like, it's kind of sad. It's like, yeah, this dude is a sad life. Do you guys have incels in Australia?
Oh yes.
I feel like this guy kind of fits into that camp.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So interrogation number 4. This is where we're introduced, I guess, to the killer. We don't know that yet, but it seems like he has the most incomplete information. And there's just like the line about there aren't many lowlives who run around in clogs, which again, this is a thing on our podcast, guys. I'm not a fan of feet in my visual art, and this guy, it's like this guy's a bad guy, and I think Bertolucci might be in on it because this man's like the clumping shoes. It's like, who wears these things? Like, are these flip flops? It's like they're clogs.
As a bad guy, he's walking around in clogs.
Yeah,
Open-toed clogs. This guy sucks. Yeah.
Gross.
Do you guys know anyone who owns clogs?
No, thankfully, and my wife is Dutch. And she doesn't even own clogs.
We have a Dutch bakery here, and they sell clogs, but I don't know who's buying those things. You know what I mean?
No.
Wooden shoes.
Side note on fate in cinema. This is something that has kind of come to my attention. Like, we all know Tarantino and his foot fetish. I kind of was piecing all of that together, rewatching Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and it's like, the shot where Margot Robbie puts her dirty feet up on the cinema chair, you're like, fuck you. No, never do that. But then also, this is the equivalent of Tarantino just, like, bare tits on the screen. And, like, this
equivalent.
Yeah, it is. Because that's his thing. And you're just like, God damn it. Like,
Didn't realize I was watching a porn.
Yeah, just chill out, dude. Sorry, that's my sidebar on Tarantino's foot fetish.
Perfect.
What would your thing be if it was on display? Mine would be like hot dogs. It'd just be like people eating hot dogs for like 2 hours. Not that like I'm sexually attracted to that, but it's like if I want to display something that interests me, it'd just be people eating hot dogs.
Yeah, that works.
You know? I mean, I don't know if you guys have anything like that. Like,
Lee's definitely cat videos.
Yeah.
Not enough movies have cat videos.
That's what we need on the Criterion Collection, just a compilation of like YouTube cat lols.
That could be Spine 1000. They still haven't announced that yet, so we can petition for that. Yeah.
Where would that jump in your tier of Criterion?
Oh, that'd be top tier. That'd be a pure Criterion. Yeah, 100%.
I guess so. Coming back to the interrogation number 4 chap, did you guys get much out of this particular telling? Because it seemed like you're kind of locked into his viewpoint of like where everybody else was in the park, but you don't really find out where he doesn't actually really talk about where he was. He just says, "Oh, I saw these people," and that's like the thing is like he's evasive, and that's about all that I really remember or recall.
Yeah, the one character that we don't actually get a 20-minute sequence of what was their day like, really. Like, we don't go as in-depth as everyone else. And not just that, but we linger on him in the interrogation room more than anyone else. Like,
there's a cool shot with him, and it's the shadow on the wall and the pull out to his face. I think that's when we first sort of meet him. It's foreshadowing, But that's that. I don't know how long that sequence is compared to the other ones, but
it's almost like with everyone else, it's like we have our setup establishing here's who's being interrogated now. Let's see their story. Whereas with this guy, we're going to sit in the interrogation for a longer time and watch him pause and think up answers as well. That was what was interesting. Like, they ask him a question and he just like takes 5 to 10 seconds to be like, "Oh yeah, I went home." And you're like, that's not sus at all. Like,
I was in a job interview once, and some of the feedback afterwards was take some time after each question. Don't just answer right away. So you saying that, and then me hearing this other thing, I don't know what to think anymore. It's like, is it awkward not to just like, I don't know anymore,
You sound like a serial killer if you do that.
If you pause.
Yeah.
Yeah, and what I was also instructed was to repeat back. And you go, so do I understand the question right? You're asking this, and you fucking throw it right back at them.
Total serial killer.
And they're like, "Yeah, we want to know what you've been doing for the last 5 years." It's like, let me understand correctly. Are you asking me?
5 years.
5 years?
Criterion Collection.
Yeah, I've been doing this podcast. I haven't had time to do anything else.
And then we get to interrogation number 5 with the Party Park Boys, who are. So one of the things I am not a fan of in movies is when characters are doing things that are allegedly funny and laughing, and everybody's like saying shit that's not fucking funny.
I know. It's painful.
The amount of laughter in this was rough.
And then they say something to another character, and they laugh, and you're just like, what? No.
What, working hard or hardly working? And then you go, okay. All right.
I mean, I'm not sure if it's because maybe we're so removed from how people talked in 1962, and this would have been hysterical for like young. This is how the young kids talked. I'm like, no, this is terrible, is what it is, and it's bringing attention to itself because it keeps going. These two pals are like walking around, their arms around one another, and then they're talking to the girls, and we're going to make dinner, but we have to make some money to do that. They're talking about gnocchi, which of course, RJ, how do you feel about gnocchi? How do you feel about potatoes with meat sauce?
I'm pro gnocchi. I don't know about our Australian friends here. Are you guys pro or anti gnocchi?
Oh, definitely pro gnocchi. Yep.
Okay.
Gnocchi?
Gnocchi? Yeah.
Gnocchi? It's similar. Can I bounce something else off you guys? This has been brought up on our podcast before. One time I went out to dinner with a friend, and he ordered a plate of bolognese, like meat sauce, to split as an appetizer. This is a main entree, and he ordered it for us. I had no say in this. It just happened. At that point, what would you do? Would you stay and eat the bolognese?
Like
the meat sauce?
Like the same dish with 2 forks?
Was he expecting a Lady in the Tramp situation?
I don't know.
Maybe that was what he was getting at.
I don't know, but I did eat the gnocchi or the bolognese, and then I haven't seen him for many months. So I don't know what he was expecting. It's what happened. Okay.
Need to clarify: 1 plate or 2 plates? It was a shared plate.
It was 1 plate.
Yeah, there's something weird there.
Yeah.
2 30-something, slightly overweight white males sharing a plate of bolognese.
Oh.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
Well, that's
good to know.
That's hot.
Well, you got angry at these guys. They were like, "Well, I want gnocchi," and the other guy's like, "Well, I want potatoes," and you screamed at the TV.
It's the same thing. Gnocchi is potatoes.
I guess it'd be like someone saying I want mashed potatoes and someone saying I want fries. They're the same thing,
But just different delivery methods.
They put on the note 4 pounds of potatoes. What is it? Something ridiculous.
Yeah, the grocery list the girls give them is insane.
4 pounds of potatoes?
Yeah, what are we doing here?
It's a lot of potatoes.
Are we feeding every character we've met in this film? Is that what's happening?
It might get there. They might.
Maybe the big payoff will be like a Wes Anderson style, like gathering of all the principals all together, coming together.
We're gonna have a slow dolly shot while some Mark Mothersbaugh music plays.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Eating potatoes.
Yeah. But like their storyline, it seems like it goes. We're gonna have the similar beats to everyone else of like, oh, it's just that what Bertolucci's doing. We're getting a slice of life example of these people, and then, but where theirs ends up, it flows into the next day, and then ends up with a drowning and all sorts.
I love that reveal of we're only interviewing one of the boys.
Yeah.
Mm.
And then we find out why later on, obviously the drowning and
I think that is like that scene actually like really got to me when the kid's on the bank, like the bank, and he's just screaming. He's like, I'm scared.
Don't leave me, you coward. And it's so rough.
I don't get emotional a lot because I have depression and alcoholism. But when I was watching this scene with that kid, and he's like, I'm scared. I was like, holy fuck! I was like, this is evoking emotion in me, and the first time in so long. So I really like that. I don't know. That's just me. But
I did too. And just, don't leave me.
yeah, it's just sad shit, man. He's like, I'm scared. And I was like, I feel you, dude.
And
I'm
then,
scared too.
yeah, and then cutting to him just like crying in the interrogation room and things. You're like, let this kid go. Like,
Yeah. You're like, let him go. Defund the police.
But then
sad stuff.
what's kind of great about the narrative, though, is how it connects from like the interaction that they have with their third friend in the park, who has the most unfortunate character name. Like, he's just billed as homosexual.
Yeah.
Come on, give him a name, please.
There's something we always want to do is not say, that guy. No, not that guy. The other guy. The guy in the hat. No, not that hat.
Mm-hmm.
We want to know the names.
The hat with the feather in it.
Yeah. We looked up like, okay, this name. Oh, homosexual. We didn't get a name.
Can't we just call him like Gary? It's fine. But the fact that he, like, their storyline and their interactions with him is what actually ends up being the catalyst for what ends up being the murderer being caught, and it ends up being the most important aspect of the entire film. Like, we spent an hour or so with meeting all of these other disparate people that were in the park, but now we finally get our payoff of like, everything's kind of coming into place nicely.
Yeah. Like what you said, payoff. It was.
And that's good payoff. That's a $10 word. It's like scaffolding. It's like, how they scaffold up to that? And you're like, wow.
I got a wallet full of $10 words that I just love throwing around.
Yeah. Jarrett drops those unironically. What's that one?
You guys often the phrase, it's a tone poem?
Oh, I don't know that one.
No, I stick to $5 words myself.
Yeah. Just the right amount of pretension. Just the right one.
You gotta find that balance.
Yeah. So then the movie kind of hits its final stride where you get the telling of how the woman was killed by interrogation number 4, and then I guess you get the kind of the cutaway to a party. And it's just like this kind of process of like, oh, they're closing in on him, and then they arrest him. And you get the scream that kind of echoes the scream from the kid in interrogation number 1 with that when that storm kicks in. And the movie kind of just comes to its conclusion, I guess, of closure. But it's just I don't know. It's an ending, I guess.
It's very much like a first filmmaker ending. It's like, well, my story's wrapped up, so
I'm out.
Smoke bomb, I'm out.
It really reminded me the she was a whore, as I said earlier. It really reminded me of The Wedding Singer when the limo driver's practicing and he runs over the cones and he's like, they were cones. So my point is, I think that is the Adam Sandler movie that should be in the Criterion Collection, is The Wedding Singer.
How you came back to that? That's good.
Yeah.
It's like poetry. It rhymes.
Yeah.
It's all circle.
George Lucas, God bless.
Exactly.
That whole sequence is so lovely, and it's like the one reason I will accept the clogs in this film is that final scene where it's like the sound slowly dropping away and just that clank, cloppy noise of the clogs, and you're like, oh yay, we get this now. This is why you're wearing clogs in the park. Nice.
Yeah, it's just like the sound of flip flops. Like you're like trying to be sneaky. It's like, oh, this is probably the worst thing you could probably be wearing, but that's just me. Just that snapping sound.
I'm like, also, who picks a dancing partner wearing clogs? That's not going to go well.
What if they step on your toe? It'll hurt.
Exactly.
Closed shoes, always.
Exactly.
Yeah.
When I go to Jarrett's house, which isn't very often, I make sure I'm barefoot all the time. All the time.
Yeah, very upsetting. Very upsetting. So, what did we all think of this movie?
I liked it a lot better than some of the more recent ones.
Okay.
I think there are a lot of they're walking. But I really loved the concept, the returning to the park and then seeing the characters, but then getting to meet them later and find out their stories. I loved how even though everyone who's being interviewed, except obviously for the killer, is innocent, and yet they're so guilty. They're so guilty, like hiding and all that sort of thing. No, yeah, I never watched it again, but it was fine.
Yeah, it has a nut, like, there's an assured vision there where it's like he's clearly a filmmaker who knows what he wants to do, the type of story he wants to tell. He gets there with his visual style, and it's very much a first film that is enjoyable to watch, but yeah, not
too enjoyable.
Yeah. It's great nuggets of ideas there, and it not executed in the best possible way, I would say.
I think, because this movie's not on the tip of the tongues of anybody. That, like, if you were talking about Bertolucci, no one is mentioning La Commare Secca. Like, that is not a movie that, like, is brought about. And it's like, it's good that it's in the collection, because it's like, well, it's Bernardo Bertolucci's first movie. I mean, where else is it going to go? It could be like dumped onto like the Kino label, like Twilight Times, or one of these other like brands. They could put it out too. But so, like, why not? Why not on the Criterion Collection? I thought this movie's like, it's okay. There's like moments in it, like these little flashes of like, oh, that's really great filmmaking. That's great little stuff. But sometimes you want more from a character, and I don't know if there was like any particular character that jumped out at me as being interesting, not sympathetic necessarily. I never really expect that when I'm watching a movie, but there was no story that like I really could sink my teeth into as far as like an arc that I was like, oh, I would like, that was like really great. That's like, of course they made the movie because they wanted to do that scene. This seems like to be kind of an idea, like a general idea, and then they kind of brought together with these like suggestions of stories, like that slice of life approach. And sometimes that's successful, and other times you're like, oh, there's like one really great story, and then it's like an anthology almost of like a collection of shorts that are kind of circulating around an event, kind of like Shortcuts recently is. It has like so many like characters, but also like these big name actors that kind of draw you into it, and they're like Altman movies, kind of a different thing altogether. But there is weird kind of, actually, now that I'm thinking about it, there's also a movie that's like involving a dead woman, and how people react to that. There's no connection there beyond it, but other than the weirdness of like depictions of dead women in movies, and as well as the weird prevalence of sex workers in the Criterion Collection. My count currently is at 25 total. That's like movies we haven't seen yet, but it's kind of a thing that comes up every once in a while. And I think in about 5 of those involve dead sex workers.
It's that thing of like, well, filmmakers just being like, well, that's an interesting thing. I'll use that as my jumping off point for a story. You're like, okay, cool.
So the same.
How many of those 25 are Italian?
I don't know. I can tell you
21 at least.
I'll let you know. But I just noticed that Jean-Luc Godard's Vivre sa vie is also from 1962. Which I don't know if any of you have seen that, but that is I think one of the better Godard movies that I've seen.
Are any of them better?
It's kind of his remake of Pandora's Box. Okay, yeah, I'm kind of on record as not the biggest Godard fan. So.
That's okay. But I will say, Vivre sa vie might win you over. It is. I think that movie's like it overcomes a lot of what I think are shortcomings. I think in his movies, but also like I love Nights of Cabiria.
Yes. I love that movie as well.
Yeah, that's one of those like really pleasant surprises for me when I was like going through these. But I'm a big Fellini fan in general. Not all the time, but a lot of the time.
Big Fellini boy.
Big Fellini boy.
Yeah. Well, what about you, RJ? How'd the film?
Well, so as I mentioned before, I didn't look into this at all. And I have a sordid history with Mr. Pasolini. And so when I saw his name there, I didn't realize until like, so I did watch the like the 15-minute interview with Bernardo afterwards, and he was kind of saying it's like Pasolini wasn't like super involved in this. But when I saw his name, I was kind of like, I don't know. And then the first 20 minutes, I was 100% super confused. Yeah. I was real confused about that. And then I think this movie has a few smoking guns. Like the clogs, it's kind of like you were saying. It's like, it's goofy. It does have a payoff at the end, but it is goofy. I do think a lot of the dialogue is, it's a little heavy-handed. Like the way that the people talk about like love. And like after I watched that, just that 15-minute video with Bernardo, what's his last name, Jarrett? Bertolucci? Bertolucci. Watching that, because like he was talking about like his poetry book that came out, that actually made more sense to me now. I was like, oh, this dude's like a poetry nerd, and that's why all these people are like these grand statements of love and stuff. But when I didn't know that watching it, and I was like people don't talk like this. It's like nobody talks like, it's like just to like their bud. It's like your best dude. You're like, hey man, love is the eternal like wheel. And it's like, if I said that to like a guy I know, I'd get my ass kicked. Not like because it's goofy. It's like nobody fucking talks like that.
Yeah. No one sits down over a beer and talks like in allegorical soliloquies. Like
just like puzzles and stuff, and you're just like, that's weird. So I think like the dialogue is a little weird. I think the first 20 minutes are not like you got to work through that, and then you kind of get to the better stuff. And so like you guys all kind of said, there's like good moments dispersed through it. I'm going to surprise everyone, and I'm going to say I actually really enjoyed this thing by the time I got to the end. So like I like for our listeners at least, they're probably going to be like super taken aback by this, but I really liked it. I'm a big fan of like memory for movies, so I really like Rashomon. I really like Wild Strawberries, things like that, where it is like disjointed or just disjunctive like memory things. And I really liked how they kind of worked between that. Like Lee, you brought up earlier, walking through the park, and like how different people's memories show people in different kind of like positions within the park and stuff like that. And I think that actually fits with like the weird geography of the movie itself too, because the way people talk, like people describe stuff, and memory is like a weird thing, right? Like things that actually happen and the way people remember it is different, because it's like you can convince yourself that things happen even though they don't, and you might not even be aware of that. So I really liked all that memory stuff. By the time I actually figured out what was going on, I was like, okay, I'm on board with this. There's some slogs in between, like all the people walking, but then you also have gems like dudes drinking eggs, just cracking an egg and just drinking it, and you go, huh?
And the way he gets that toilet lit up is beautiful.
And he just and throws that eggshell in there. It's like, dude, that's going to clog your drain, buddy. You can't just be throwing fucking full eggshells into the toilet.
Yeah.
But I did think that was an interesting scene. And yeah, like I think I said earlier, like the altered like dream states and like dream logic and stuff like that. Some of it's a little showy and a little goofy. So I don't think this is it's not a slam dunk, but I actually liked it a lot more than I thought I was going to, for a lot of these little nuggets. It's little chicken nuggets dispersed through this thing.
It's a really fun premise to play with, and I think a great first film for a filmmaker to be kind of figuring his way through and what will eventually become his voice. And you can, as the film progresses, he seems to become more assured of what he's doing and how he's presenting it, and it's nice to watch that unfold as it goes along.
You can see like those beginning scenes, he's like, camera, whoa, let's go. And then it's very clever towards the end. How that is restrained in a way, and then he's able to, like you say, find his voice.
Yeah, it's definitely a little dizzying at the start. You're like, because that's like that. I was honestly for 20 minutes, I was like, I don't know what I don't have any fucking idea what's going on in this thing so far. It was like all over the place. And then I was like, okay, I got it. And then the more I saw, I was like, okay, I actually like that they're doing this now, and the backtracking and then the leading up and the backtracking and leading up. Like, I feel like Chris Nolan himself would probably like this thing a lot. Like, I mean, people make fun of that too. It's like, oh, you like Chris Nolan? That's, and it's like, I think he's an interesting guy. Like, I don't think you can argue that, but yeah, I think there's some cool stuff in this little movie. So I liked it a lot more than I thought I would. And then, like, in the first 10 minutes, I almost messaged Jarrett and I was like, are you fucking kidding me? I was like, is this the movie that you wanted to do this thing on, like, with other people? I was like, you picked this thing, and then it turned on me, and I was like, I like this. And you know what I think it was? I said earlier, that scene with that kid just like crying that he was scared. I don't know what it was. It really got to me. I was like, man, I'm sad.
That's great. Not
like that.
Not that you were sad, but
yeah, but I got something out of it, right? Yeah. And you know what? If anyone doesn't like this movie, I'm not going to leave comments on YouTube and yell at them for not liking it, because I never like stuff that other people like, and people get mad at me. But yeah, I liked it. It was good, surprisingly, for me.
Yeah.
What a surprise, RJ.
I know. Did you see that coming, Jarrett?
No, I didn't. It's curious because, like, the stuff you're describing, like, I didn't get that out of this movie. Like, I didn't really feel like this movie was really about memory, because I feel like a lot of people it's about deception, I guess, and like how people represent themselves rather than how they remember things. Because like they're trying to, like, they're telling somebody else a story to, like, exonerate themselves. I don't think they actually necessarily believe the story they're being told. It's just kind of like how they present, I guess, rather than about memory.
Yeah, I think that's part of it, though, Jarrett. Sometimes the people we deceive the most are ourselves.
Oh, beautiful.
Wink.
Why the camera. See, if this movie had a tagline, it would be that.
I know. I know. And that's okay. People are allowed to have different reads on stuff. It's okay.
Well, so on the Creeps podcast, we like to do a little segment called Who Hates This Movie, where we look on Letterboxd and find the lowest ratings that have actual reviews to go along with it. Because it's always curious to see, like, how people have taken it. And this happened way back, I think, when we did Seven Samurai. Because I was like, what do people who hate Seven Samurai have to say about it? And I think the original review that we read back then it has since been deleted, but it kind of kicked this off, because you never know. Sometimes there's some unexpected joys. So, RJ, if you're ready, first up,
I'm ready.
We've got JD, who writes, I didn't get it, and it's so boring, I fell asleep during the final minutes. Rewatching the final minutes, I still didn't get it. All the testimonies together put the suspect in that place, something like that, but it has a lot of unnecessary filler shots looking at things for no reason. It's under 100 minutes, but it's too long. Sorry, cinephiles, but I'm sure I'll like it better if I ever rewatch it. 2 stars for now.
Wow. Scathing, but he managed to muster 2 stars. Okay.
Yeah,
2 stars. So when Jarrett does this, I always like to go to their page and kind of pick through some of their other gems. This person, it's funny that they talk about, like, confusing, but one of their favorite films is Cloud Atlas. And it's like, I've never actually seen that movie, but all I've heard people is just like, I don't think it's like outright confusing, but it's a weird pick that they would have that in there, you know? They're
actually a crazy movie.
Yeah. All their liked films, it's just Criterion stuff, but here's some weird gems for you guys. 0.5 stars to The Wild Bunch, 0.5 star to Training Day, which is a film I like. 0.5 star to Gone in 60 Seconds.
The original or the remake?
No, the Nick Cage one. Okay. But what about 0.5 star to Battleship Potemkin?
Okay, that's weird.
Yeah, it seems weird that you'd even bother rating that 0.5 star, right? It's like,
maybe carriage looked fake. Don't buy it.
Yeah. They gave 1 star to Brazil. They gave 1 star to Stalker. 1 star to Fanny and Alexander.
Okay, this person can fuck off.
Yeah. See, that's why you got to dig a little deeper. You got to see, too. You're just like, what else is this person operating on? Strange. Very strange.
One more for you, RJ. Derek
Okay.
Smith, 2 stars.
Ooh. It's a repeat offender, I think.
It's one of those names. There's a lot of Derek
Yeah.
Smiths out there. Bertolucci's visual talent is already on display in this, his feature debut, but the almost complete disregard for the murdered young woman at the film's core in favor of the petty personal grievances of the various potential witnesses left a bad taste in my mouth. It's a bit too formulaic even for a first outing, and Pasolini's script pales in comparison to his own films from around the same time, specifically Acetone and Mama Roma.
Well, I mean, anyone who gave Workmeister Harmonies 5 stars, I don't know. And Showa 5 star. I mean, Showa sounds good. It's just like 9 hours. I don't know, you guys. Just lots of Criterion stuff for 5-star films, but why don't we head over to those half stars? Let's see what's going on over there. Half star to Pay It Forward, starring Kevin Spacey. Interesting. Half star to Patch Adams. I thought that was a fine movie. I don't know what the problem is.
So far, I'm on board with this guy.
Yeah, but what about half a star to What Women Want, starring Mel Gibson, Australian heartthrob?
National hero. God damn.
Exactly. There's not really anything else of worth here, but so
That's
you
a
take
weird
that as
review,
it is.
Like being like you didn't spend enough time with the victim. It just makes me think of the Tarantino at Khan. Like, I reject your hypothesis.
Oh, yeah.
The film isn't about Sharon Tate. Like, what?
Yeah.
It's strange.
Well, any final thoughts?
Yes, not about the film, but I like the way you guys have all these extra little things that you do, and we're gonna steal them.
No,
Good luck.
That's
Borrow. We're Canadians now.
Yeah, share.
Yeah.
Share.
so you're
Yeah,
going
in the
to derive. You're going to derive.
Yeah.
That's secretly what this was all about. It was us seeing how you guys do it and just.
Yeah. Just in the professional world, it's called collaboration.
Exactly.
Yeah, I get that dropped very frequently in my line of work. Collaboration.
Mhm.
But yeah, no, good luck, because as soon as you start to do anything in the Creeps formula, just get ready for just a wave of shit to come at you. Just the hate mail, people like just making you feel bad, and then you'll get the attitude. You're like, I don't care anymore. I don't give a shit about anything. And then
I was initially worried. I thought you were gonna say a wave of letters from our lawyers.
oh no, we can't afford lawyers.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're a free podcast. Our OnlyFans isn't activated yet. We're not making any revenue yet. Yet. Mhm.
But yeah, this was a blast. I had a great time hanging out and chatting Bertolucci with you guys.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, we're all such Bertolucci fans.
Oh yeah.
Who isn't?
I'm more of a Roberto Benigni guy myself, but yeah, it's thank you guys for joining us, and yeah, I think it's, as you guys said, the creams have been crossed. I was trying to say stream, but cream
Yes.
is way grosser.
You.
So the creams have been crossed, and hopefully someone gets something out of this one day
Yeah.
down
One
the road.
day.
Not us, surely, but someone else. Yep.
After the break, the cops are coming. They're going to drag us off that dance floor, but we had it coming.